بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Welcome to episode 4 of the series, The Levels of Shaitan's Misguidance. And if Shaitan is not able to misguide someone to fall into shirk or kufr, which is level 1, or into bid'ah and innovations, which is level 2, or into major sins, which is level 3, the fourth level that Shaitan tries to get someone to fall into is minor sins. And the Prophet ﷺ warned us of that. He said, إِيَّاكُمْ وَمُحَقَّرَاتِ الذُّنُوبِ, beware of the sins that a person looks down upon, belittles. Beware of the small sins, the minor sins. For indeed, the example of that, he continued to give us an example, something to compare that to that, so we can better understand, the danger of minor sins. He said the example of those sins that are belittled, the minor sins that people look down upon, it's not a big deal, just something small. It's like the example of a group of people who are traveling. They stopped in a valley, and each one of them brought a stick, a small, stick or a branch of wood. This person got a stick, this person got a stick, this person got a stick, until they had enough sticks to make a fire big enough to cook food over, to bake their bread over. And then he continued, said, and indeed the example of small sins is like that. And he said, and indeed when a person is held accountable for the small sins that they do, they will be destroyed. If someone's held accountable for that, if they're brought to account for all the minor things that they do, if they keep indulging in them over and over, do a lot of small things, then they will be destroyed. In other words, a person shouldn't feel safe from even the small sin that they may do. As the scholars mentioned, that a woman entered hellfire because of a cat that she had tied, and as the Prophet ﷺ tells us, that she had tied, and didn't give the cat any food, didn't let it eat, and then the cat died, and because of that woman was punished on the Day of Judgment. And we know, also from the Sunnah as well, that someone doing a small good deed as well, they're forgiven and allowed to enter Jannah. The woman who gave a dog some water to drink, or the man who removed a branch out of people's path so it doesn't harm them. So all these small good deeds were the reason why these people enter Jannah, and in some cases the small sins would be the reason why someone would be punished in hellfire for them. So the Prophet ﷺ is warning us from small sins, from minor sins. Allah tells us in the Quran, whoever does an atom's weight of good, he will see it. And in other words, he will see the reward for that on the Day of Judgment. And whoever does an atom's weight of bad, he will see. Meaning he will see the punishment for that on the Day of Judgment, the consequences of that on the Day of Judgment. Potentially even in the dunya, but definitely on the Day of Judgment, people will be held accountable for their deeds, big or small, that they may have done. And we've discussed in one of the episodes as well, the authentic statements of the companions, the statement of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, in which he talked about how the believer and the wicked person sees their sins. So refer to that for more in-depth discussion on that statement. But Ibn Mas'ud anhu says, the believer sees his sins as if he's standing next to a mountain and he's afraid that it will fall upon him and crush him. And the wicked person sees his sins as if it's a fly that landed on his nose, and he just shoos it away. It's not a big deal, it's just an inconvenience, just shoos it away, something small. But the believer, and notice he said believer versus wicked person, so some Muslims might fall into that category of being wicked people if they have that attitude towards their sin. If they belittle their sins, they don't give them much thought, they indulge into falling into them, because eventually if they do a lot of minor sins, they're only going to accumulate. Eventually they'll fall into major sins, and so on and so forth. And the scholars have said that if you stop and think about it, minor sins, they're small in of themselves, but if they pile up, if they accumulate, they'll add up, they'll make a lot of bad. If someone just is doing minor sins, but they're doing a lot of them every day, then over time they're going to have a lot of minor sins accumulated. And as Prophet ﷺ said, if they're held accountable to that, that will destroy them. That will destroy them. The scholars have said that the mountains are the mountains made of anything but small rocks and pebbles. If you think about a huge mountain, if you break it down, it's made out of small rocks and pebbles. And so minor sins even though they're small in of themselves, each one of it in of itself, it's small, but when they accumulate, they may make a huge mountain, and they might cause someone to, if they're held accountable for that, if they're brought to, when they're brought to account for that on the day of judgment, they might be punished for that, and there might be in a serious situation while they didn't give it much thought in the dunya, because hey, they're small sins. So beware of minor sins, and don't look down or belittle on, and that's one of the fourth level of Shaitan's misguidance, trying to get people to belittle their bad deeds, look down upon them, and not do, not give it much thought, not repent from them. Barakallahu fikum, jazakumullah khaira, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.